Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for the recap today. This is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi films.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was up there for you. Mm-hmm. I thought I was, doing something cool. I'm like, we should do a TBT.
Love Fifth Element. Love.
Yes. As Ashley mentioned, we are recapping the cult classic, The Fifth Element. It was released May 9th, 1997. Can you believe? Years, okay? It's 2 hours and 6 minutes long, rated PG-13. It is an action science fiction film. So here's a quick summary. In the 23rd century, a New York City cabbie, Corbin Dallas, Bruce Willis, finds the fate of the world in his hands when Mila Jovovich, falls into his cab. As the embodiment of the fifth element, Lilo needs to combine with the other four to keep the approaching great evil from destroying the world. Together with Father Vito Cornelius and a Zandy broadcaster, Ruby Road, Chris Tucker, Dallas must race against time and the wicked industrialist Zog, Gregory Oldman, to save humanity. Here's the cast. Bruce Willis is Corbin Dallas. Corbin,
my man. Corbin.
Mila Jovovich as Lilo. Gary Oldman as Zork. Ian Ohm as Cornelius. Shout out to The Hobbit. I was like, that's my man, Bobo Baggins. Chris Tucker in my favorite, one of my favorite performances is Ruby Road. Luke Perry as Billy. Brian James, girl, yes. General Monroe. And Tom Lester Jr. as President Lindbergh.
AKA Debo, because he will always be Debo.
Seriously.
Rest in peace to him as well.
Yes, this movie was directed by Lou Benson, and it was also written by Lou Benson and Robert Mark Kamen. Rotten Tomatoes gave this film 71% critics, 86% audience score, and Google users gave this film 91%. Ashley, what's your grade for The Fifth Element?
So, I already said this is one of my favorite all-time sci-fi films, and that stands. It is so over the top and ridiculous that I love it so much, yes. And it holds up over the years, but I accidentally happened upon some real-life drama, some real-life tea that I was not expecting when I was watching this last night. So the director and co-writer also dated, impregnated, and married the actress who plays the diva when she was 15, 16 years old.
What?
Met her at 12. He was 32. What? Got her pregnant at 15, married her at 16, right? And if that's not enough.
Which one? Lou
the
Benson?
Diva. Yeah. The director / writer. Yes.
So he's the one that did this.
He's the one who did this. And he did this with the actress who played the diva. And then not only that, then he leaves her for Mila Jovovich during the filming of this movie.
What?
So there's that, right? So I still give this film an A- because I loved this film. But the real life drama as an adult is like, Oh, wow. The shenanigans.
What?
Yep.
I
Yep.
didn't hear any of this.
Girl,
Wait,
Wikipedia and stumbling on stuff. And I'm like, oh, and yeah, just
what's her
drama.
name? I'm trying to see which one.
She was his first wife. Her name was, or
Is it
is,
the
it's Maywin now. She's actually a director herself now. At the time, it was French actress and filmmaker. Yeah, married to him from 92 to 97.
Wow. When you said the director and screenwriter, I thought you were saying that Robert was in there too. I was like, oh no. Like, you know how you swap friends type of deal. But you were saying it was Lou. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's how I interpreted it the first time you said it. I was like, what? But still, what he did was scandalous enough.
Yeah.
And wow, I didn't know. And Mila was 19 years old doing this film.
Yeah.
So she was
Apparently,
hella young too.
apparently he liked him real young there. Yeah.
Wow, that's very icky.
So sorry to start the recap on that note. I had not expected it when I was doing
And
my research.
she's
So
not even the first wife, she's the second wife. And now he's with a black woman. Shut the front door. I'm sorry.
but yeah, you're right. She
Wowzer.
was his second wife. Then Mila was his third wife from 97 to 99.
Wow.
So
She
yeah, there's a
was
little
so
tea for you.
young.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let me get my mouth off the floor and give my rating. I gave this film a B plus. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and considering that this came out in 1997, I think it holds up pretty well. Like there was maybe one snag that I caught, and I'll bring it up after the spoiler alert. But other than that, it was a good time. All right, let's get into spoiler alert. The Fifth Element. So I always love a flashback, and I also love like Egypt 1914, and there's like these archaeologists uncovering some ancient mystery. Like I love all that stuff. I mean, that's probably why I was obsessed with the original Mummy series for
Mm-hmm.
many years.
And Brendan Fraser. I mean,
Listen, but Rachel was that girl. These adventurers were digging up tombs they probably shouldn't, because this is probably cursed.
can I just say 1914? It don't feel that long ago. So when they
It does
first
not.
said 1914, I was like, wait. Why was I thinking that when they flashed back, it was like a long time ago?
That's true.
1914, my granddaddy was alive. You know what I'm saying?
Girl, a few years and my grandma would have been born. So yeah, I understand completely. I'm assuming they're British or English. They didn't have accents, so shout out to Luke and them for not faking an accent. They were uncovering ancient artifacts to inform them of the different elements: air, water, earth, fire, and then the fifth element. The father, again, I'm so glad you said this in our conversation last week, when it's one thing to watch it and it's another thing to watch it to like gather details. I was like, who is this father and what is he doing? Like, I was looking at him sideways because I'm not here for, poisoning people, not knowing motivation. But apparently he was part of a brotherhood that was meant to, hold the secrets and hold the stones for, I call them golden robots.
They were big, they were slow, they look like robotic Ninja Turtles a little bit.
Something, they also look like something that could have been in the Wiz. I know that was really random, but like it gave me those thoughts.
This watch was like, y'all started off with a priest trying to kill people. Like, that's deep.
Right.
I don't think I remembered it
Exactly. Me
that way.
either.
And I was
No.
like, y'all wanted me to root for them as supposedly being on the good side of, history, but he was legit about to kill and poison some innocent people.
Because they knew too much.
Because they knew
much.
too much.
Whew, that's crazy. And again, I think he regarded the golden robots as like my lord and all that. So it's kind of like, wow, who are we genuinely serving?
Oh, that's a great point. Like, were they actual priests in the sense of what we consider priests now, or was that their religious organization that they created it to be for?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
The reason why they're there because the golden robots didn't believe that Earth was a safe place for these stones. And I thought it was really interesting because it said that when evil returns, it'll be in 300 years. So like they already knew things were going to be popping off. And unfortunately, the archaeologists didn't. I don't know what happened to Luke's character, but the main one did not survive. But the priests agreed to pass down his knowledge, fulfill his mission. So actually, that was a lot in the intro. We already talked about our initial feelings towards it, where it's like, what's up with this priest? What is he doing? But I really want to know what happened to Luke and if he joined in on the mission too after a while. Cause it's like, did the priest, was he able to find a way to get rid of him? Because again, they knew too much.
If he got rid of him, he'd have to get rid of the kids too. The kids was there and saw everything. There
That's
was like
true.
4 kids who were also witnesses. So I don't think so. I think especially because they came and took everything,
Mm-hmm.
that it was no longer a threat to anybody knowing what was going on because they're not going to live 300 years. You know what I'm saying? So that probably eliminated it from that perspective. But it was definitely an interesting way to begin the movie because I was also like, how do these robot aliens know the future? And if they know it,
Yes.
why can't they do anything else to stop it?
So true. Other than hiding the goods, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a fast forward 300 years later. We see the threat. It's this big black hole. We have a black man as president, which I always think is funny because until we actually got one here in America, whenever there was a black man that was president, it was always associated with the end of the world. Did you ever notice
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yes. And also it was like comedic, right? Like it wasn't necessarily
Yes.
a character that you took very seriously. And again, they cast Debo. You
Yeah.
have 2 people from Friday cast in
Yeah.
this film, and you put Debo as president. For those who are not familiar with Friday, like I was watching it this time, I was like, I don't know how I ever took this seriously. Like I
Yeah.
took, Debo in his slippers is my vision of this man. So how did I take him so seriously as allegedly the president of these United States? But he made it work.
He did. He was president of the federal territories, responsible for 200 billion citizens, Ashley. And this evil black hole was a threat. In the midst of the president advisors, there was priest Vito Cornelius, who was spitting fire. He was like, don't attack it. Evil begets evil. Ashley, were you relieved as I was when you saw the priest? I'm like, oh, old dude from 1914 was true to his word. You know what I mean?
Well, as hard as he was going, I had faith, honestly. But yeah, I think knowing that obviously the Manduchiwan, I think is what the actual
Yes.
robot aliens were called, that they were right and that we are in this time of like danger. It's great to know that there was like hope. Like I think you needed that
Yeah.
hope, especially
Yeah.
what happened in this scene and how it seems unstoppable otherwise by like our intervention.
Yeah.
Um, we're thankful.
And I always find it interesting. I feel like it's a very American or European way of taking care of a problem. Like, can you shoot at it?
Can you blow it up? Can you do
Can you
whatever?
blow it
He was
up?
sitting there like, what's bigger than the 2000? Nothing, sir. Nothing. So yeah, they knew they were screwed. But also, it seemed like he was frozen as it was getting closer. So I'm like, does it eat you?
I think the fear was paralyzing.
The fear could be seeing that. I guess evil up close and personal could be.
Yeah. Well, we flash to South Brooklyn in New York City. Did you know this movie took place in the United States?
Yeah.
I did not gather that
Yeah.
originally.
Because it's just in the future, you know. So we got the flying cars, and it definitely
Yeah.
looks like how I would expect New York to look in the future. Still dirty, still crowded.
Grimy.
Yep.
We meet Bruce Willis' character, Corbin Dallas. He is former military. He's living his bachelor life, not voluntarily. Unfortunately, his wife was conniving woman, apparently, and he drives a cab. Already has points on his license. Once he hits, another infraction, he essentially loses his license. And so he's just on his merry way. I love all the Easter eggs. I think the one thing about this film that I'll say here is it is a comedy of errors. I feel like just all these things coming together, all the miscommunications. It was actually quite funny. And dare I say, Shakespearean, like, I don't know, like,
Mm.
in terms of how it was executed, I guess I should say, in that regard. Because when we first meet Corbin, we hear on his radio Ruby Rose commercial about the sweepstakes. And then there's, of course, him minding his own business, and out of nowhere, somebody drops through his taxi. Before we talk about that particular meet cute, the guns didn't work for the president and all his advisors. And they essentially have 48 hours to resolve this evil. And the priest informed him that Madachiwan had the only weapon to defeat this evil because it creates light. And so the president was like, bet, yeah, let's make this happen. They come through the gates, but they're ambushed by Mongolors, these really ugly, they do all the dirty work for the bad guy in this movie and essentially blow up their ship. And this is devastating because, again, they had the only hope, but they were able to recover just a little bit of DNA and they were able to create this being. So, Ashley, let's talk about a couple of things. First, I always think it's fun with sci-fi movies. They're able to do a lot with a little. So like again, I don't know what I was thinking, but I never paid close attention to how they created Lilo essentially. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, I didn't know she was essentially the same being from 1914 but brought back as a woman." Did that surprise you in any way?
Well, I think she was always a woman, probably, but I did take note this time of the fact that they had, first of all, such advanced technology that all they need is some DNA and some cells to recreate a living thing. I was
Mm.
curious, how many times have y'all done this before? Who else have y'all brought back? You know, because
Yeah,
that's some crazy technology right there.
truly.
So yeah, it was something to just see the hand, the arm that they had found, and then to see the machine that kind of put the body of Lilu back together. That was fascinating. But this is the start of something that I noticed this watch that I had never noticed before. And it's like this glorification of her physicality in this movie, of
Her
like
being
saying they made her
perfect.
perfect. Because that even comes up with Bruce Willis later of like, oh, I'm just looking for the perfect woman. And somehow the
Mm.
perfect woman just fell out of the sky type thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think I had picked that up before, but I definitely picked it up this time. And I was like, this is definitely some male gaze shit.
absolutely. I mean, the fact that, again, we know that she is a model, one, and
It's very weird science if you think about it. I don't know how many of
yes,
y'all watch Weird
yes,
Science. It was in the 80s, but I loved that movie and they made Lisa, and Lisa was supposed to be this perfect woman. It was very reminiscent. But in this case, she's supposed to be more than her look. She's supposed to be the ultimate weapon.
the ultimate weapon to save the entire world, the
Yeah.
entire universe. I also had this as a side question. When the golden robots were coming in to deliver the four elements, there were borders. And I was like, do you think they would really have borders in space? I think that's the whole point of space. It's like it doesn't belong to anybody. Like, you know what I mean?
At this point in history, it wouldn't, at that point in history in the
Yeah.
film, it would not surprise me because, again, we have a diversity of species living amongst us now. You know, it's very
Mm,
Star Trek where we as humans live amongst all these other types of beings. So it's not surprising at all that you have the borders because clearly we've become a broader universe than what we have currently and somehow did
mm,
it peacefully enough to integrate, which I don't know
exactly.
if that would ever be freaking possible.
I know one can only hope. Going back to her look, I was able to watch a video of Mila talking about her time with Fifth Element. It was a Vogue video from May 11th, 2022. We talked about this a little bit in our conversation last week that the costumes were made by the Jean Paul Gaultier, right? And how he was instrumental in everyone's look when it came to her iconic bandage look. You know, the idea of her being repaired, right, and getting bandaged up, that was like part of the ethos of that particular look. And I wanted to also highlight, she mentioned Ward. He was a famous hairstylist of the time, was brought in because they wanted her hair to represent fire, flame of some sort. And
Hmm.
so they brainstormed whether it should be like a blue flame, but they ultimately decided on the blonde roots and the orange hair. And I thought that was really funny because while I was watching it, I was like, do they realize that her roots were blonde? I legit, it was like, I don't know why that stuck out to me or whatever, but it did.
I never thought of it as flame. I always thought of it as like other, as like it distinguishes her from just being a human because no
Mm,
human has orange hair naturally,
yeah,
you know? So that's what it always meant to me is like she's this other worldly thing.
that's a great point. And what's interesting was she originally dyed her hair. And while they were filming, she said that her dark roots are coming back and they would peroxide her roots.
Yikes.
Exactly. And guess what? Her hair started falling out and they ended up making a wig. But I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
who thought this was a good idea?
Some bad stylists.
Yeah. Again, the reason why I don't blame people for wearing wigs because you got to preserve the sexy.
Mm-hmm.
In our introduction to Lilo as well, she speaks the divine language. And this was also created by Luke. Like in doing research for this particular recap, I read also in his Wikipedia, and then there's this yardbarker.com article that talks about 20 facts that you did not know about the fifth element. Essentially, he came up with this idea at a very young age. He was a teenager and he thought it was going to be a novel, and then he eventually made it into a script and was able to, get it in theaters by the age of 38 years old. So this has been like more than a passion project
While he was
for
diddling
him.
teenagers, he had a dream.
Oh my goodness, Ashley. But I say that to say he
I'm
legit
sorry.
created a whole language for her to speak, and she delivered. I'll give her that. What was your first impression of Lilo?
For this to be Mila's first major acting, major, because she had done some
Yes.
things, but first
Yes.
major, she blew me away. Like, I still look at this role, and
Yes.
this is the signature. I know she went on to do Resident Evil, and that was her big franchise, but this role, like, solidified her for me, and it's the most
Mm-hmm.
memorable and impactful. And I just thought she was fabulous. Like, I thought she felt, especially when you look at some scenes and like her, the way she processes things and takes it in, it's
Yes.
all over her face. The scene where she breaks out, right, and she's standing at the edge and she's seeing this new world, the way the world is
Yes.
now, and she's just so overwhelmed and terrified and excited at the same time. It's all over her face. Like, I thought she did such a good job.
Yes. I
and
agree.
and Lilu, she feels majestic but also very vulnerable when we first meet her because she's
Yes.
literally being held captive. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was so happy to see, like, when he was like, is that glass secure? Oh, it's unbreakable. And then she breaks the glass so easy. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, but don't underestimate her. You know?
Exactly. No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And we get to the meet cute because to your point, she escapes. She speaks the divine language. She doesn't know how to speak everyone else's language. I thought it was interesting. He was like, I only know how to speak English and bad English. I'm like, Americans in 2320, I need for y'all to do better.
With all this technology y'all got. But let's be fair, he was poor. So there were probably people who were wealthier than him who had better devices and better things at their disposal.
Yeah, potentially. And she, he was out of points, Ashley, and was ready to go home and see his friend Finger. And she's out here talking about, please help. And he's like, I don't have time for this. The cops who want you, they're going to get you.
It was so sad when she was back there saying help. She was so
Yes.
like vulnerable. Again,
Yeah.
vulnerable but strong at the same time. Let me clarify when I said poor. He was just, he was one of us. He was not of a wealthy class of people at the time who I'm sure had all the things. But yeah, I felt for her in this moment because it's like, she's trying to figure everything out. She just sees the picture of the little kid. She's like, help me. I'm like,
Yeah.
sir, just let's do what you got to do.
Like the action movie that it is, they were able to escape the cops. How is this technology holding up for you, Ashley?
I think this is some of the like campy fun of it now, especially watching, technology has improved so much for us in terms of what we can see and what they can do with these films now that, yeah, I mean, it's a little cheesy looking back, but it's still fun. I still have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was so glaringly that it took me away from watching the movie.
Mm-mm.
So I say that to say it
Not
wasn't
yet.
bad.
Not yet.
Right.
In another 20 years, yes, this will be really bad.
Probably.
But for
Yes.
us right now, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, Leela was able to tell Corbin to take her to see the priest. That interaction was a lot of fun because at that point she was fainted, and then he out here kissing her. I was like, yes, pull the gun on him because it's called consent.
This is the first time in the movie I was like, she is the ultimate weapon. Why is she a damsel in distress? Why does she have to be carried in this man's arms
Mm,
he is a mortal little regular human.
she is meant to save the universe.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. And Cornelius was just like, oh my goodness. You were with me. And he was just trying to drive into Corbin, like, do you know who you got here? Do you know who she is? Let's talk a little bit about this big bad. So the Mungalors stole the stones for Mr. Zarg, played by the great Gary Oldman. It's so funny. I wrote in my notes, I'm like, his Southern accent feels intentional. It's like giving Republican senator. Especially when he was talking about how peace is so boring. I mean, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm just like,
He kind of gave Tony Stark vibes a little bit, though, if I'm
you
honest.
think so?
Yeah. Tony Stark created weapons. Stark Industries made weaponry.
That was the only thing they had in common, though. I don't think philosophy, like, wise.
I think Tony didn't see anything wrong with it at first. So I should say the initial Tony Stark that we meet, right? It gives me Tony Stark vibes. I don't think he obviously was never as malicious as Zorg and took pleasure in it like Zorg. But just watching this, I'm like, remnants of Tony Stark and Stark Industries, especially when he took out the weapon and was showing them how to use it and stuff.
Yeah, the like, demonstration.
Oh yeah. That could have came from Stark Industries. Easy.
Who's to say that Marvel didn't take,
Well, the comic books, though, would have already set this up prior to the Fifth Element being made. But
true. That's
But
true.
for sure, they could have taken a little bit of the charisma of the performance. Who knows? I haven't really heard Robert Downey Jr. talk about where his inspirations
No.
came from for his version. But I
No.
mean, some of it from him and his own unique quirkiness, and some from others, I'm sure. And then can I just say, I really couldn't take Gary that seriously with that slick,
First of
one-sided.
all, I was thinking about the mechanics of their hairstyle. I was like, so did he just go bald and then they just put the hair piece there and then the plastic?
I think it was a choice. I think it was a hairstyle that he himself thought was quite fabulous, because why else would you be rocking half a hairstyle with a plate on the side? It had to be a look, different era, had to be a look.
Had to. Well, the Magalords were working for him. They got the case, but guess what? There weren't any stones in there. He was on a mission. I called him the big bad, but guess what? He wasn't actually the big bad. I'll just go ahead and talk about the fact that he was working for the ultimate evil. Did you think he was where the buck stopped?
Probably on my first watch, right? But now when I watched it again, I was like, how does mofo have a phone?
Right?
That
How
looked
is
like just a solid, strange being. Where was the inner voice coming from, and how did it have a phone? Is there a person inside of that planet that is moving towards Earth?
Right. Exactly.
I was confused.
That's a great question, Ashley, because I had no idea. And again, his conversation with the priest, I thought, was actually one of the most entertaining, because we, again, understand his motivation of essentially saying, guess what? Peace is boring. You need to shake some things up to make things interesting. And in the midst of his, what they call a diatribe, he chokes on a freaking cherry. And the priest is like, what about my humanity? This is going to help you out so you don't die. And so the only reason why the priest was able to get out of that situation was because a life for a life, Ashley.
I mean, what I was thinking is, I was like, if you let him die, you could just leave on your own. Like, why even save him? But you're a priest.
Because he's a freaking priest.
But the priest before you was ready to kill. So
that's true. By any means necessary.
By any means necessary. It's like that whole conversation. Would you kill Hitler as a baby?
Oh,
maybe.
Girl, listen, I'd rather not. Go into that conversation. That is what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody could say that's a hard conversation for sure. But in this case, like I said, he's a grown man. So would I let him choke on that cherry? Don't put me in that position, Lord.
We find out that the stones is with someone who was trusted, and that someone was the diva on this planet that has the contest, the planet of Falston in Paradise. This is where the comedy of errors come into play. You have Lilo with the priest, who's like, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to get on this planet. You have Corbin, who's, seemingly washed his hands of the whole situation, but then get called up because of his military experience, informing him, we need these stones. I think it's funny because it's like, oh, now this military experience matters, right? And we need for you to do this extremely difficult mission. And then, of course, Zorg is looking for these stones by any means necessary. I mean, everything from trying to track Corbin at his house. And honestly, I felt awful that he put those people in that refrigerator. I thought they were dead the first time I saw it.
Too. Again, talking about technology, though, with all the technology innovations, why he have a roach with a satellite on his back to go spy on the president?
It feels a bit too mundane, right? For that level. The fact that we're actually traveling planets and this is the most that you can do with your surveillance technology.
Yes, ma'am.
Leaves much to be desired. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, everybody's personating Corbin. The military was able to rig the contest to make him the winner. He out here getting cursed out by his mama.
I wish we could have seen his mama.
I was interested in knowing who she was as well. And Ashley, girl, we meet Ruby Road, played by the Chris Tucker. Like, he is such a force of freaking nature in this role. And you know what was so funny? I didn't realize his introduction was towards the second half of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, his role made such an impression on me that I just assumed he was just like throughout this entire movie. And that was just not the case.
Nope. We don't meet him till we're on the ship.
On the ship, where Corbin is there with Lilo, the priest is freaking out because he thought he was doing something by any means necessary, knocking out Corbin initially to get her on that ship. I don't know why he thought David was a good enough escort for the savior of the world. Like, I know he was a great assistant, but sir, David ain't proving. You should have taken her.
Well, that's what she even said. She was like, "You're not coming," and he was like, I'm too old for this. They're not gonna believe it." And that may be true, but at the same time, like, you probably just should have tried to figure out a arrangement with Corbin, because David wasn't gonna be able to protect himself, let alone her.
Exactly. Who is today's equivalent to Ruby, in your opinion?
I can't say I feel like I can think of anybody who has that level of energy, because I remember when I was watching, I was thinking, like, this is very Prince inspired. This is very
Michael too.
Michael too, but particularly because of the costuming, it really gave Prince to me,
And the voice gave
and the
Michael
voice
for me.
and the voice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they both, well, I guess Prince, they both had actually deeper speaking voices than
in real life.
Their
Yes.
music would have you believe.
No, but the way he was like, Corbin, like,
yeah,
that was giving Michael a little
and the
bit.
fact that he became friends with Michael is also
absolutely
the thing. But yeah, I mean, I just think, in terms of like entertainers, you felt that influence strongly. But I mean, he really made it his own. Like, there's this level of like agility and energy he had in that era of his life, his youth, and the physicality he had just with the mic and with the thing that he always had in his hand, and just his allure with women, and just all these things it gave me. Like I said, it was very much like Prince inspired at the time. So I can't say I can think of anybody now who has that like femininity along with masculinity that has that same type of like allure.
So, two things. So the first, I was reminded of Ricky Thompson on the internet. He is an internet personality. He is known for just legendary ways of how he says period, like with the hand motions, and he's really good at giving like motivational, self-prep videos, and it's giving Ricky Thompson. Y'all should look him up on Instagram and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The second thing I wanted to ask you, Ashley, is did you have a favorite look?
My favorite look was probably the roses.
Same.
With the hairstyle.
They weren't
almost
Bantu
knots. Almost. Yeah. I just thought it was elegante. I thought it was chic. I thought
he was a bad bitch.
He was. And then you had the nails done. Like, come on.
Yeah. Same. That was my favorite too. But I mean, that leopard print with that blonde wig is freaking iconic.
I think that's the one you think of when you think of him in that character, because that's the introductory look.
Yeah.
But I think going to the opera.
Yeah, my fave too. I agreed. Everybody goes to see the diva, and her performance was literally out of this world, Ashley. The Megalords come to terrorize everybody because, they were upset at how they were treated by Zorg. And they were like, if he wants the stones, he can get them from us. All hell breaks loose. Zorg shows up himself. He feels like if anyone is going to do the job well, it's going to be me.
It's going to be me.
In all the mayhem, the diva gets shot in the stomach, and Corbin is there to help her in her last moments. She tells him everything. She tells him that Lilo is the fifth element and the stones are inside her. I thought that was pretty clever. Like when they said it was with a person, that was something that did cross my mind. I'm like, what if it's like in the person?
I think logistically, I'm not buying it because
I mean, those were some big
them,
stones.
yeah. And
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
how are they settling in there? How'd they get in there?
How
I
that
know
is
you're
the
an
question.
alien, so your body mechanics are different than our body mechanics, but clearly you got shot in the stomach and died. You are bleeding blue blood. So sis, help me understand how those got in your gut. You know, they shove them up your ass. Like, I'm just curious as to how that physically worked out, but it was clever as far as a device because everybody's looking for these stones. They think it's in these cases, and the whole damn time they was in her body.
I
How was they gonna
enjoyed
get them
this.
out if she had lived? You know what I'm saying? How
I'm
we
sure
getting them
some
out?
type of wand that was able, at that point, I'm sure we're being beamed up, so maybe there was
Like
a
beam me up,
scan.
Scotty getting beamed up?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Well, I actually enjoyed this part of the film quite a bit because Bruce Willis was doing the Bruce Willis thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was giving hard, die hard.
Major, major. And guess what? I was seated. I was seated. When he told Ruby to be still, he shot around for him to fall down the roof. And then again, Chris Tucker was gold during this part too, because he is just screaming and screaming and yelling and Corbin. I mean, I'm curious on the number of Corbins we got out of him, like the variations of it.
I'll have to go back and see if they really did many interviews because if he hasn't done an interview in a long time talking about this, I would love for him to do like a whatever anniversary, like
Yes.
reminiscing, especially as Bruce not being well anymore and stuff. Like, I would love to hear him talk about the making of this film. That would be awesome, actually.
I agree. Corbin was able to get the stones. He was able to shoot him up, and he was able to find Lilo.
He
And they
shot that dude
all
straight in the head, Delora. Straight in
talking about
the
let's
head.
negotiate.
That was badass.
It really was. There's a bomb. So, like, if there wasn't any other pressure other than the world ending within hours, there was a bomb on a freaking ship. They managed to get on their mini pod, but by the skin of their teeth. And then Zork, again, went on the ship, found the case, went back on his ship just to find out the case was empty yet again, to come back, stop the bomb. And then the Megalors had the last hurrah.
Good for them.
Yep. Corbin talks to the president. There's excitement because they finally have the stones. But guess what, Ashley? Their good just wasn't good enough because that evil was still making its way towards the planet at record time. They make their way to the place we started off at in 1914, and they got 5 minutes to save the world. I'm thinking about that song by Madonna, Justin Timberlake, and Timberland.
I'm thinking of the Armageddon theme song because it's the end of the world as we know it. Either we
Bruce
figure
is in
this
that
out.
one too.
Yes, girl. Him and Will Smith been saving the world for 50 years. It feels like.
For decades. For decades.
Okay. Bruce had to sacrifice himself so
Woo!
Ben Affleck could go home.
To be with his daughter.
Because remember, he pulled the short straw. It was supposed to be Ben Affleck.
He did. And he didn't want to break his daughter's heart.
Yep. Cue Aerosmith.
Don't want to close my eyes. So what I think is funny.
Fall asleep because I miss you, baby. And I don't want to miss a thing.
Tears. Those were movie moments, though. Real talk.
Yes. those
cultural
theme
moments.
songs of certain like iconic movies you never forget. Celine Dion, Titanic. You know, there's just certain ones that's like stuck in your head forever. It is as iconic as the actors are in those films.
Agreed. So this is the part of these type of movies that get on my last nerves, Ashley. You literally got 5 minutes, and she's not well because she did get shot by Zorg, right?
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't completely invincible in that way, although she was really strong. But they're like, what are we supposed to do with these stones? And she out here talking about wind blows, rain falls. There are no time for riddles.
Girl, we all about to die.
Literally. But I think the part that really grinds my gears, because obviously very clever, they figure out you got to blow on the wind. You got to put some water on the water, put some earth on the earth. And then, of course, there's one match left, Ashley, for the fire.
We would have been screwed because I definitely don't carry no matches.
Same. But then the whole conversation of, I don't know love. And you're making this man who is dealing with literal heartache. She can't save the world until you give her love. Because essentially, love is the fifth element, Ashley.
Oh boy. Again, this ultimate weapon has to be in the arms of a mere mortal man to give her the love she needs to be able to save us all.
Like, she doesn't have the fortitude of herself to be able to do this. She needs a man to tell her that he loves her and they need to kiss.
It was ridiculous. this watch, I cringed. I was like, oh my gosh. Now y'all see why I love Frozen? Because this is ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. They save the world and Corbin and Lilo are together. Do you have any final thoughts for the fifth element?
So again, that ending was pretty cheesy, but I still enjoyed this ride. Like I said, I thought Mila did such a great job for her first, major foray and solidified herself as a sci-fi queen that she became. I loved seeing Bruce Willis in his element. Fifth element. In his action glory days. It was very nostalgic. Again, Chris Tucker's his top 3 performances of all time, even though I will say there was one scene on the plane with one of those flight attendants that I was like, is this consensual? Because it seemed like she kept saying no. And we are beyond the era of when women say no, they actually mean yes. So I try to just kind of let that try to move past that. But he was fantastic otherwise, and this still holds up as a great fun sci-fi ride. So
I like to think about all the cultural moments of this film. I think about the Janet Jackson movie music video, It Doesn't Matter, pulling from Bruce Willis' apartment. That is my song. That is my song. And that dance break in the middle, everything. And then more recently, Janelle Monáe dressing up as the diva for Halloween. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I'm sure she slayed. Like, if
Epic.
there was ever a reboot and anybody should play the diva, it's definitely Janelle Monáe.
Agreed. And I'm surprised no one has tried to do it. But if you think about it, and Mila mentioned this in her Vogue interview too, she said the movie kind of came and went in America and that it didn't start building steam and became a cult classic, with people introducing the film to their kids and things along those lines. And she said that she felt like Lilo, she said first, when they finished filming, she said she was destroyed because she gave so much into this role and it was hard to say goodbye. But she said that she was left with strength and she loved that Lilo is a positive character and that she is love being the fifth element. So we talked about Ruby's favorite looks, but did you have any favorite Lilo looks?
I feel like she was basically just in 2 things. The bandages and the white top with the orange suspenders. Yeah. So, I mean, they were fairly similarly unclothed. So,
Well, it's the future. I
sure.
thought it was funny that they had that Chanel makeup thing. I thought that tickled me so much. I was like, I see what y'all doing here. If only. All right, Ashley, time for hidden gems.
All righty. I have three this week. The first one I just finished like yesterday, I think. Dancing with the Devil, the documentary, three-part documentary on Netflix. This is one we're going to have to recap, guys, because I have gotten into, I think, almost all of the cult documentaries that there have been. The Vow, like all of them I've watched. But
Yeah.
this one moved me a little differently, not because of the main family that I know a lot of people are talking about online, which is Miranda Derrick and her family. No,
Okay.
it is the fact that this is centered on a pastor who was able to create a entertainment management company and lure in all of these up and coming dancers and entertainers, particularly a lot of Black dancers. And I'll tell y'all, of all the cult stuff I watch, usually
Wow.
they can't get us.
Usually,
Usually
yeah.
they can't get us. And it started actually with a very heavy Asian influence. I think a lot of these folks were Korean who initially came into this church. The pastor, I believe, is Korean. So you
Yeah.
also get the story of the people, two sisters in particular, who were both a part of the church back in the day and found out that he was still doing these things. You have one who was in this for 23 years and is still recovering from what
Wow.
happened to her. And so
Wow.
it was just so gripping to me. I feel like it's worth talking about. So that is Dancing with the Devil, 3-episode documentary on Netflix. My second hidden gem, way more lighthearted and delightful. Geek Girl, also on Netflix. I believe it's also on Netflix. It's top 10 right now in terms of shows. This one is about kind of the ugly duckling into beautiful swan trope, right? Where she's a geek in school. Her best friend has dreams of becoming a model. She ends up getting discovered instead. Yada, 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 yada. It's very cute. It's very endearing. She's kind of like neurodivergent, I believe is the phrase they've been using. So you have a lot of relatability in terms of her just trying to figure out how to best navigate this life and this fame, this attention she's getting. And again, she's a
Mhm.
teenager too. So it's like, life, a lot coming at you. Cute boy, yay, all those usual things. So I thought it was cute. I thought it was delightful. Either 8 or 10 episodes. I can't remember which I think it's 10 on Netflix. Check that out. And then my last one, Moviepass, Movie Crash. This is on Max. For any of my fellow Moviepass users, I believe I still have my red card. Okay.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was a Moviepass subscriber in its heyday, and I enjoyed I didn't abuse, but I enjoyed the perks of being able to go see any film anytime, anywhere. But I didn't realize, I didn't know the true origin story of this company. They were always promoted and touted as being co-founded by two white men. Wrong. It was co-founded by two Black men. Okay. And
Whoa.
Stacy Spikes has actually rebought Moviepass when it was up for auction after the crash and burn that happened when those two white male co-founders took it over and kicked them out of the organization and off the board. And now he's trying to revive it. So I just thought,
Wow.
for anybody who did not know this tale, who did not know this story of these Black men and their entrepreneurial journey, particularly where Stacy is and what he's trying to do to revive it, I thought it was so well done, and I think it's worth a watch. So that is Moviepass, Movie Crash on Max. And that's it, Delora. What you got?
Yes, Ashley, I have a music themed hidden gems this week. So these songs are currently on my new music playlist and they are on constant repeat. So the first one, Love Me Judge by Tems. It is, as you all know, I adore Afro beats and I adore Tems. And this song is such a vibe. I love it so much. It's a little bit different from some of her other songs. But I love and I love and I love and I love you always. Like I just love the song so much. The second song, Billie Eilish. I am a fan of Billie Eilish. She does still
Yes.
creep me out though. I'm not gonna lie.
Does she? I
Like
still got to listen to this new album.
sometimes I wonder, I'm like, hopefully there's nothing subliminal here, especially the way I've been having this particular song on repeat. And this is off of her new
Don't say
album
that.
called CHIHIRO. This song, I said the love song was a vibe. This song has been on constant repeat. Like if my Apple Music recap were to come out today, this song might be number one. I
Hmm.
love that the song is like 5 minutes long. I'm like, shout out to a song that has a little bit of buildup and, lasting power before falling off.
Yeah, because those 2-something-minute songs are teasers.
They are. And it's like I literally have to put it on either on repeat or put it on multiple times so I can get a good feel out of it,
Mm-hmm.
This song, oh, I love it so much. It's my favorite song off the album. I did listen to the whole thing. This album, shout out to June being Pride Month. She talks about her, explorations, dealing, being with women and things along those lines. This song doesn't cover that or anything like that, but her other popular song, Lunch, definitely explores that. And you can only imagine what that topic is about. But
I was about to start speaking and I was on mute. I love that there are song titles that I still have never heard. It seems like they should have all been exhausted by now. But Lunch,
yeah.
got it.
Yep. And my third is called Bet by METTE. She is a gorgeous singer. What I think is really interesting about her, she's the dancer from that For Real music video that shaved her head off, her hair off for the music video for Lemon. I give it how you live it. Well, she's a singer and she also dances her behind off in her music videos. And this song, Bet, it's a feel good song. Like I want to dance with her and I love her ad libs to this song.
She's an entertainer.
She is. And this song, Bet, again, makes me want to shimmy my shoulders and my hips. Like it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I'm starting to jump up again and that'll definitely keep the heart rate going. So those are my 3 hidden gems today.
Very, very, very nice. Well, guys, thank you for joining us as always. We appreciate you. Please share this episode out with everyone you know. We'll be back, but in the meantime, as always, be blessed.